record. Yeah, so I mean, basically plays of Films and Filth, except at the end I'm going to ask the podcast 1999 questions instead of looking up reviews.
Okay, I don't remember
It's
what those are, so.
that doesn't matter, but yeah, because I don't think I mean the reviews are all like this is like what 6.0 on IMDb, so all the reviews are like mid, and the extremes might not be that interesting.
Yeah, that's
Unless,
fine.
unless
That's films and films I am
right. No, I'm just saying like, I could actually
MO,
put this out
so.
Christmas week as a Films and Filth too,
Hmm.
and buy another week and put out an episode.
Have these started going up on 99 yet or not?
The first two are up, the third is recorded, and here we are
Hmm.
doing the fourth. But this won't come out until the end of December. We're kind of ahead on these, which,
Oh, are they bi-weekly?
yeah, bi-weekly for the
Yeah.
movies, and maybe we'll go weekly again for the TV show, or maybe
I
not.
mean, just stick
Why?
bi-weekly.
Why
Don't
not?
make
Fuck it.
work for
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. That's kind of what I'm saying. So I might just keep it bi-weekly.
Well, the difference between weekly and bi-weekly on the Ape series is like, since there's what, 24 episodes, that's the
That
difference
makes it a
between
year
half a
of
year and an
podcast.
entire year, which I feel like maybe is a little. Maybe we should do weekly for the Ape series and then give a big gap in between.
Maybe
Like,
that might, yeah, whatever. That might be what we do. We'll
do
see.
a gap between the series and a gap between the movies in the first series.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah. That's what I do is the Twilight Zone. So, um, okay.
yeah, I don't
Well,
want to be an Apes forever. I do
right.
want to be an Apes forever, but I also don't.
You don't want to be in podcast Ape Land forever.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Because that series is, you know, it's probably not going to be the best thing ever made ever.
No, no. Luke, are you interested in watching a shitty episode of TV with people in monkey suits?
Of course I am, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I'll do one or two episodes.
But yeah, those will be a complete random probably. So, because we
Yeah,
don't
just hit
even
me
know what
up.
they are. Yeah, they're all on YouTube though, except the first one, and that's on Daily Motion or something. Um, okay, well, Mark, this is the one you start off, so I guess you're starting off.
Yep. Welcome to Podcast 1999, the podcast about the fall of man and the rise of the planet of the apes.
Yay!
It's here finally. Again.
Right.
I
It's
still
the
think you
planet of the
guys
apes.
messed up by keeping the name.
Yeah, probably. It's
What
hard to
about
change names of things. I
yeah.
had to get approval to change the Facebook page name just to take the Space 1999 part out of it. They might
Yeah.
not have approved me. It might have been like just like being an ape in this film where the boot of the fascist civilization is coming down on me where I'm trying to just live my life.
Is that why you're wearing a primary color jumpsuit?
Oh yeah, always. But that's just me. That's my style. I like primary color jumpsuits.
Right.
Because I'm here to do business.
Who are you?
I'm Mark.
Hi, I'm Matt. We don't know what podcast we're doing today anyway, because Luke's here. Howdy.
Hello.
It's almost like
I
Films
think we
and Phil.
do.
No.
We
This
do. It's
fits perfectly in with my ape year 2024.
Yeah, so I was gonna say it's Ape Year, and Luke's here to celebrate Ape Year with the conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, this year there was a new Planet of the Apes film, a new King Kong film, and Donkey Kong Land is opening at USJ. So I've been celebrating ape year. I watched all the Planet of the Apes films earlier this year, and all the King Kong films, and played the Donkey Kong Country series. So I've
So
been
you've
Oh
having quite
man,
the
gone
ape
more
year.
ape than we have, yeah.
Oh yeah.
my secret shame is I never played Donkey Kong Country 3, and that's like really high on my to-do list. And then
I wouldn't put
the
it that high
Wii
on your
one.
to-do list.
Really, if I had to choose, if I would play like the Wii one, the what Tropical Freeze or 3, what's the best out of those three?
Um, Definitely not three. Most
Ah,
people say Tropical Freeze. I haven't gone back to those two recently. Um, Maybe. So I have heard compelling arguments for why actually the Wii one is better than Tropical Freeze.
hmm.
And you are often a contrarian, so maybe you'll agree with that.
It depends.
Tropical Freeze is like it does that sort of Mario Galaxy new thing every level thing,
Oh yeah, I'm into that.
whereas I think Returns is more of a tight platformer.
I'm a child. That was what Mario Wonder, where it was like, here now you're a capybara, now you're floating. Now you're very heavy. No, I'm into that. I want
All right,
something
then, yeah,
different.
I got a feeling you'll like Tropical Freeze a lot then.
Cool.
Has there ever been like a
Oh.
decent Planet of the Apes video game?
There's like that PS1 game. I don't think decent is the word for it.
Nah, that's too bad.
The most recent Planet of the Apes film felt quite video gamey, which actually is a good sign because that director is making the Zelda movie.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, he did really well with CGI characters, which is hard to
And
do.
characters who don't talk much as well.
Yeah.
I guess
You know,
that's a space run on this one. This is, I guess, the old school ape movie where the apes are the least talky.
Hmm.
I mean, it almost feels like I feel
Well,
like Rise is almost like a weird sideways remake of this one in particular, you know?
So do you
I
want to
mean,
hear
it
my
definitely is.
Planet of the Apes timeline theory?
Sure.
Mhm.
The the new movies they're making now is the original timeline, and Conquest and War were created by the time travel in Escape.
Okay. Sorry, I had to
Okay.
sit there and think about it for a minute.
No, that makes
Because
sense.
the end of this, and especially the end of the next one, kind of implies that they've changed the future and that it's not quite going to be as dystopian as it was when Charlton
Right.
Heston landed.
And also when Cornelius explains the timeline in the last movie, he describes things happening over centuries, where here it happens over decades.
Hmm.
So everything's
And
accelerated.
and that is the thing I dislike the most about this film is that it does the Terminator 3 thing of Skynet is inevitable. Inevitably, the dog and cat plague will come to Earth. It just either it comes now or it comes 400 years from now. And that to me is annoying because
But the
I
apes
don't
will
it,
rise. It's better than Skynet.
inevitability is annoying because it's just so unrealistic.
Terminator
Oh
3
well,
is especially annoying because Terminator
yeah.
2's message was no fate. And
You can
Terminator
Yeah,
have the
3 was like, nah,
tattoo.
actually, fuck that.
the fact that Alien 3 followed Aliens with like, oh, actually Newt is dead, and then the exact same thing happened basically to James Cameron's message of hope from Terminator 2. It's like, actually there is
Yeah,
no
no,
hope,
no
not at
wonder
all.
he became Mr. Like, I demand complete creative control in all my projects.
Yeah,
And
it'd be like
also,
if
Mr. Capitalism will burn the earth.
yeah, it'd be like if they made Avatar 6 in like 30 years and it was like actually they're the Na'vi are evil and they're stupid and the corporations are super cool.
Yeah,
They're
well,
demons.
they're just waiting for James Cameron to die so they can make those films.
Giovanni Ribisi
Yeah.
becomes the real hero.
Yeah, he brings Xenu to like lay waste to the to the planet.
Okay, where are we going with that?
I don't
Mark, I
know.
guess you should hit our trivia. Luke, you can probably take a nap for this if you want.
I'm having okay. All right. I hope you're playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
I'm actually just
Um
polishing off side quests in Zelda before I go do the final boss.
oh they actually what the new one the
Yeah, yeah.
Echoes of uh, I was gonna say they just put Donkey Kong Lands on. All
I
right,
know.
enough
I
Donkey
recently
Kong.
bought Donkey Kong Land for the Game Boy and then never got around to playing it, and now it's on the Switch. So that keeps happening to me.
Yeah, just keep the cartridges, man. They'll be worth that you can retire on them
They look cute on a
when you're
shelf.
that too. I'll never give up my Game Boy cartridges that 5 I have left. Anyway, trivia for Planet of the Apes. This is not Donkey Kong. J. Lee Thompson was one of Arthur P. Jacobs' first choices to direct the original Planet of the Apes, having directed previous Jacobs productions, The Chairman, and What a Way to Go! But at the time he was unavailable. He consequently was given the job of directing this fourth entry and the film after it. It takes place 18 years after Escape from the Planet of the Apes and is the first in the series to have no involvement from Pierre Boulle. However, writer Paul Dane returns for this entry with his own take on the ongoing, at the time, American civil rights movement. Although Dane was British, his story did resonate with African American audiences. This and the next film are tied for the lowest budgeted films in the series at $1.7 million each. Conquest is the only film in the original run to not be rated G because of its body count of 59. Originally higher because the film ended with the execution of Governor Breck. After a previous screening didn't go over well, the film was edited without any allowance in the budget because they were out of money. The footage of the gorillas hitting Breck with the butt ends of rifles was played backwards, and Roddy McDowall recorded a different, less violent speech that was played over existing footage. As mentioned in previous trivia, this film was not planned to have another sequel and was instead going to segue into a TV series, but it made just enough money to justify one more theatrical film, which was planned as the final entry in the series. The aforementioned J. Lee Thompson is our director this time around and next. Born in 1914 in Bristol, England. He
Huh,
mostly worked as a
that's where I grew
feature
up.
film. Nice. Maybe you guys, well, maybe
Had
you
a
hung out
pint
with your
together at the cathedral.
grandparents. He worked as a feature film director and sometimes writer, and his career picked up in the early 50s and didn't slow down until the late 80s. He directed Gregory Peck in Cape Fear, you know which one, and towards the end of his career, he mostly directed hard-boiled action, crime, panic, exploitation films. 6 of his last 9 films star Charles Bronson, including Death Wish 4, The Crackdown, and one stars Chuck Norris. Thompson passed away non-violently at the age of 88 from congestive heart failure. Roddy McDowall is back as Caesar, the son of Cornelius and Zira, aka Milo. Interestingly, he played Augustus Caesar, aka Octavian, in 1963's Cleopatra, alongside Space 1999's Martin Landau as Rufio. Ricardo Montalban is back as Armando, and unsurprisingly, he will not be back for the next film. Natalie Trundy is back now playing Lisa, finally having graduated from human character to ape character. Don Murray is, however, a human character, sort of, playing Governor Breck. Murray was born in 1929 in Hollywood. He was on track for a stage career early and was on Broadway by the early 50s. After a conscientious objection to the Korean War and an honorable discharge, he made his way onto the screen, starring in such film as From Hell to Texas, Shake Hands with the Devil, and One Foot in Hell. I don't know if those were in the same series. His career continued until about 2001 when it tapered off, but he came back from retirement to appear in 8 episodes of Twin Peaks The Return and one more film before hanging it up. He died February 2024 at the age of 94. Hari Rhodes plays Mr. McDonald. Born in 1932 in Cincinnati, Ohio, he made money hustling pool as a child and then lied about his age to join the Marines in 15 to fight in the Korean War. He later wrote several books about his time in the Marine Corps. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from the Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music and racked up over 80 acting credits before his death from a heart attack in 1992. You can see him in The Outer Limits, Detroit 9000, and the Logan's Run TV series. Severin Darden plays the role of Culp. He was born in 1929 in New Orleans. He was a founding member of Chicago's Compass Theater and an original cast member at Second City. He also had a career on screen that spanned nearly 30 years. You can see him in Occasional Wife, They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And Kolchak the Night Stalker. He passed away in 1995 at the age of 65 from a heart attack, but unlike the previous 2 actors I mentioned, Darden will be back as the same character in Battle for the Planet of the Apes. And that's the trivia.
I do love Ricardo Montalban playing someone so non-villainous. Because I'm so familiar with him just as Khan.
Right,
I assume that he was like a career villain actor.
And even Fantasy Island, he's like offering people monkey's paws in the end, so that's a little sinister.
I feel like he's kind of wasted here because most of his dialogue is exposition.
Yeah.
He didn't have much to do in the previous movie, but
as you know, Caesar, between this movie and the previous one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then he gets the Twilight Zone death and outs the window, right?
Yeah.
It's cut very short. Yeah, he's like, conveniently, Caesar, you have not been outside at all for 20 years.
So I guess
so you don't know anything.
Read the summary then?
I'm not reading a summary like that.
Okay,
how are you going to read the summary? 1991. In the years since baby ape Milo, now known as Caesar, was taken in by Armando, a plague accidentally was brought back by astronauts that killed all cats and dogs. So people began keeping apes as pets, and the humans eventually started using them as slave labor when it became obvious that they could perform menial tasks. Caesar has not been in the outside world to observe this since he's been in the circus. When he sees an ape beaten by the police, he yells, "Lousy human bastards!" And although Armando takes the responsibility and agrees to go in for questioning, the questioning gets too close to the truth and he jumps out a window. Meanwhile, Caesar is in hiding, but then finds himself auctioned off to the governor as slave labor. He soon is secretly helping other apes plot a rebellion. The secret police suspect him when they realize the manifest lists no chimpanzees. They torture him with a shock table until he indeed speaks. He's ordered to be executed immediately, but Mr. McDonald, the governor's aide, reduces the electrical power of the machine out of sympathy, and Caesar is able to kill the torturer and escape. Caesar meets up with the apes at Ape Management and is able to lead a violent rebellion against the secret police. He is going to have Governor Breck executed, but a chimpanzee named Lisa yells no, and then he decides they will not decide man's destiny here, but they will witness the birth of the Planet of the Apes, which is not a movie title so far.
Right.
Although
That's
speaking of movie titles, they always give a name to a film, and then the next film makes you think, they should have put the names the other way around. Like,
Yep.
Rise and Dawn should have been named the other way around.
Yeah.
And here, I think this one is more battle and the next one is more conquest.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And you know
but they don't
even
know
less
they
excuse
don't
here.
have a plan for the next one, right? So
They're pretty
I think in
fast
both
after.
cases.
yeah, that's true.
Because you remember when they made Rise, that the last Planet of the Apes movie that had come out was
I know it was Tim Burton's one. Yeah,
and he couldn't make it work, so they're probably like pretty pessimistic. I mean, I went into that movie pessimistic about it. I didn't think it was going to be good.
Right,
And I
is
was
I
this?
still don't think it's very good.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I liked it. I liked it a
It's
lot,
an
dude.
all-timer.
Yeah.
Wait, which one are we talking?
Rise of the
James
Planet of the
Franco?
Apes.
Oh, Rise. Sorry, I thought you meant the Burton one. Okay.
No,
No, I love
No.
Rise. Okay.
no, yeah.
Sorry.
Our point
No.
was going into Rise. All of us had bad expectations because of Burton.
Oh, okay.
Was Mark's
okay.
point.
Right.
But,
Just
right,
was the fun.
is this a Mandela effect, or did this happen before Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out? Was it initially advertised as just Rise of the Apes?
I was living
I
in
don't-
Japan at that time, so I didn't catch much promotion. I remember being at a tonkatsu restaurant and they had a TV and they showed a TV ad, and that's the only promotion I saw for Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So
I don't recall that at all, but that doesn't mean that
I
it
do
didn't
not recall
happen,
that
especially
information, Senator.
we were in different countries, so it might have been absolutely advertised differently there. I'm looking at
Yeah. So it looks like it was like early reports were like, oh, they're shooting Rise of the Apes. And I guess the studio was like, maybe Planet of the Apes isn't as well known as you think it is, and we should make it very clear that Planet of the is in the title.
That does make all of the movie titles just insanely long, though.
Yeah.
But that also makes more sense to call it Rise of the Apes because it's not the Planet of the Apes until at least the third film.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, but it's rising. I guess that's why it should be the song, though. Okay. Anyway, Conquest.
That's not how planets work.
It's a better fit than Rise, even though I do see what you're saying about switching this in Battle. Escape, Beneath, those work. Yeah, they had it down at first.
They didn't think they were going to have a fifth movie until like after, and maybe they. I haven't watched the fifth movie yet. Maybe they shouldn't have made one. I don't know.
Gee, Luke, I guess I should ask your ape history. Like, I'm pretty sure Mark and I got into that in the first one, but
Right. So as a young lad, I watched Planet of the Apes because, of course, I did. I watched sci-fi films. Then when Rise came out, I loved it, and I was like, oh, I should go back and watch the other ape films. So I bought the 5 DVD box set. I watched the first 3, and I never actually watched 4 and 5. And then back when me and you did the Sci-Fi Sanctuary as our podcast, we started doing the Ape series, got 2 or 3 in, and then switched over to doing Films and Filth instead. But at that time, I bought the Blu-ray box set. And then finally this year, I actually watched all the films. And I made some like YouTubes and TikToks about each film. So actually, I only watched Conquest and War for the first time earlier this year.
okay. How do you feel about those two? Because Conquest is probably my actual favorite of the original
I really
series.
like this one. I still think my favorite is the original. The original Planet of the Apes feels timeless. Like it's like one of those films that just feels like it came with the universe. Like I can't imagine there was a time when people watched films and Planet of the Apes didn't exist. That seems bizarre.
This
And
is the
I
Apes.
watched it with Mercy, and Mercy was like gripped. Loved it. This one feels a lot like all the other 70s sci-fis that me and you watched. And that's not a criticism. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. It just feels like, oh, yeah, here's that sort of dystopia and they're sort of, this kind of society. And yeah, we watched a lot of these kind of sci-fi films. And it's just in this case, they happen to be apes.
Yeah, we do keep bringing up the best versus favorite. I would agree the first is the best. And like Beneath competes with Conquest usually for being my favorite. Beneath because it's so whack and insane. And this one probably because of what you just said. I like all that, 70s futurist and the weird brutalist architecture and stuff. That because this is the only Apes movie that really has that.
Hmm.
This does such a good job of making it feel like there are hundreds of apes. It still doesn't feel like a
When you
planet
said
Earth.
1.7 million budget, that blows my mind because this film looks
Yeah,
expensive.
That's
They did a,
1.7, by the way.
yeah,
that's what I said.
Oh, okay. I
yeah,
thought you said seven. Sorry.
No. Yeah.
yeah,
That so like they did a phenomenal job of stretching that money.
yeah.
Props to
But
them for that.
it's true. It's still this feels like RoboCop 2 to me. Like it does what it's here to do. It's a little clunky.
Oh
And
yeah. It's not
but
I don't
but
think it's a masterpiece, but
but the thing is the stuff at the end is so good. The ape riot works so well, and for a while I was kind of my very first time watching this week. It's like I was thinking, man, Roddy McDowall kind of is miscast. He's kind of timid, and then at the end he does that speech, and I was like, oh yeah,
just see, I
yeah, he
actually
did
think
it, man.
him being timid kind of works because that makes
Yeah,
his that kind of cowardly guy who gets a taste of power and it makes him do some terrible things. I'm kind of interested. Do you think the original ending would have been better?
yes,
When I
I
played the
do.
Blu-ray, I watched the original ending and it is better, I think.
I mostly agree, but I do think so. The whole we find out in Escape, right? The first thing an ape said to a human was no, and like this film really leans into that with the humans shouting no at the apes all the time.
And all that.
To,
Do.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but then I loved the twist that she said no to Caesar.
that
Yeah.
Not
is good, but I think
yeah.
that the
I
ending.
think the original ending probably was like, but then I don't think that would have led into quite such a hopeful next movie. Which
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
kind of
For battle, you
I
do
like
have to
that
go
it
with the
does kind of
theatrical ending.
end. I do like that it ends on a slightly more optimistic note.
I like that in theory, but as far as this
I
series goes,
specifically mean battle rather than this ending itself. As an
oh,
individual
okay.
film, I think the cinematic ending is better.
It's a thing where yes, I want to like Caesar, but that's not really what this series isn't really about hopefulness. Every previous entry in this series has been like doom. So
Hmm.
I don't and also yeah, like what you said, it's him having an arc kind of turning into a monster is more interesting than him having an arc turning into a leader. But I, I don't know. I could kind of go either way. But if I had if I was in charge of choosing it, then we just take the R rating and kill the governor.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah,
But like,
but
yeah,
yeah,
we've already had like three films of increasingly bleak endings. Having like
Yeah,
it's more of a twist not to do that again, I think.
I suppose so. But
It's
I
like
don't
the
know.
old when Spider-Man got married, the original script had him um like miss the wedding because of Spider-Man nonsense and he didn't get married. But then actually it ends up being more shocking to have him get married and like change the status quo to that extent.
It's just a reminder that you can't continue to shock people. George R. R. Martin eventually gets boring, and
You
you have
definitely
nowhere to
can't
write
continue.
yourself.
You can't continue to shock people with the same trick at the very least.
Yeah, and eventually you're going to run out of tricks if you do like 6 seasons of a TV show or
Yeah.
6 movies, maybe. I would say that the most recent Planet of the Apes movie that came out this year didn't have a particular. It had a twist, but I don't think that
Yeah,
it
it
was
wasn't really a
particularly
twist
shocking.
very much, and it didn't try to be, right? Like
It
I
wasn't
think
shocking.
the mistake of a lot of Apes films is trying to out twist the original, right?
Yeah. And I
That's
mean,
how you end up with Tim Burton's ending.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, especially for
well,
reboots.
and the Andy Serkis ones really just those do lean into Caesar is a hero
Yeah.
and celebrate Caesar's hero. Maybe that's why I don't feel so strongly about it, is because I've done that. And Andy Serkis is, I mean, no offense, he's a better actor than Roddy McDowall is, but
Mm.
Andy Serkis is also like a generational talent.
Also, having now watched the full series, I understand why Roddy McDowall is remembered as the lead ape actor because has a big role in 4 and 5. Whereas up until then, having only watched the first three, um, what's her name?
Zero?
Zira?
Yeah, Zero. Yeah, Zero felt like the lead ape to me in all three of those films.
Yeah, well, I was saying in the previous podcast, the first movie, Cornelius's job was basically to be the guy who's like, I'm about to get a promotion. Do we have to do this?
Yeah, his
Like he
his
was sort
job
of
was
the
to be like, oh,
stand-in
gee,
leader.
Zero, are you sure?
Well, his job was to represent like the guy who really should know better than to maintain the status quo and gets dragged along. And
Yeah.
eventually he definitely knows what's going on in multiple societies. But he's the Dante. He's like he wasn't supposed to be here today.
Hmm.
So
I guess that's where kind of the Caesar slow burn on this one kind of works well, like because he is more timid, like in the first movie, and he doesn't even like start to be like we're going to do a revolution that much. You just see him starting to have the apes build guns, and he's kind of looking at them a certain way to do certain things. It definitely shows that Caesar's much more intelligent than well, probably more intelligent than his father.
yeah,
Hmm.
he goes. That's his. Do either of you feel like you might have gone on a journey from being somewhat like one parent to somewhat like another parent? Like maybe that's what this is. Like
Well,
Huh.
he
I
doesn't.
don't
I
know.
mean,
Like
his parent is
he started
Tom.
out like Cornelius and became more like Zero.
Yeah, 'cause-
In
yeah,
a
because
way, yeah.
Zero is the boss, right?
Hmm.
Especially in the third movie, you see Zero really take charge of the situation and deliver some of the best lines of the series,
That
really.
would be all nature, no nurture, though, since he never met those people. Those apes, I
Well,
guess
No,
they're
but
not people.
he
nature
heard
is,
about them, right? And he watched the videos
uh,
of them, and
dude, nature is
nature's a big
nature.
part of it, dude.
It's big. Yeah,
No, it is.
it's
I would
bigger than we want to. It's bigger than we want to acknowledge, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you are.
No, just throwing that out there because that makes a very hard line nature for what you're saying, which is fine. Just like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, I
Um,
mean, those two are apes, and Khan is a human being, so I'd imagine nature made a big impact on him not being like his adopted father.
Yep.
right.
But then again, have you seen in the real world the guy who raised a chimp alongside his kids in the hope that the chimp would be more human, and instead the kids were
No.
just more chimp,
That
and
makes
he had to
Oh
sense.
stop.
man.
Well, since
Wow,
Luke,
that's
that makes
great.
sense for you and me since we teach kids.
Yeah,
Have you guys considered adding a chimp to your roster of children?
every day, but they won't go for
Yeah, they say no.
it. I mean, they're desperate to get in some extra money, so maybe they will start taking those chimp dollars soon.
We've got
They're
lots of
just
monkeys in
afraid.
Nagano. Monkeys are not apes.
Oh, yeah, but they'll just take everybody's lunch, right?
They
That's what
want
those
they,
monkeys do.
no, they want to hang out in the onsen. They're the onsen monkeys.
They during COVID when there were less people touristy, they were definitely coming down into the cities and stealing fruit from farms. I counted them many times.
That is definitely a sign that the Planet of the Apes
Hmm.
is
Yep.
upon us.
3 more months of lockdown. This will be Ape Town now,
But yeah, that
or Monkey Town.
I feel like did I miss was there anything in this movie that says that the dog and cat plague altered the apes in any way?
No, they just said
No,
they started taking the apes as pets, and I guess
Yeah.
when
That's
that
wild.
goes against the chimp thing. You start having them do menial tasks, and they start walking around a little more upright. I don't know.
18 what they said 83, so this is like 7 years.
No, no,
It's
no,
like we go.
91. Oh, you mean the
Wait,
plague was
sorry.
83.
Yeah, the plague was
Okay.
83. What, 8 years? It takes
Yeah.
8 years.
To completely replace the human workforce for apes.
And for apes to get to the point where they can be like organized into a strike force, which yeah, I mean, optimistic in my opinion.
Do they say where this movie takes place?
Like city-wise,
Yeah, they
I
don't
don't
say that.
remember hearing it.
See, I always
They,
had this idea in my head, which is wrong because they shot this in LA. These are LA buildings, and I guess Mexico City has so many. I always think it's Mexico City. I'm like, no, that can't be right.
no, I'm pretty
I
sure it's
thought
meant to be the States at least.
Yeah,
it was San Diego for no real reason.
Um,
It feels like San Diego.
the Rise is San Francisco. Maybe
Hmm.
that's put it in your head somehow.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be
Maybe.
surprised if there is a throwaway line that we've all forgotten.
yeah. That's kind of why I was
Yeah.
asking to see if anyone caught that. But the next movie might actually allude back to this one, like
They
where,
do visit the city that's since been nuked, right? So
yeah, yeah. So, well, I guess we'll get back into that a little bit with when we battle. Hey, Mark, you really love the Escape soundtrack, which was Jerry Goldsmith. I
Yeah.
think I kind of like the one in here better.
I like this one a lot. It's a different guy.
Yeah, it's not Goldsmith
And
anymore, but so I
I
almost felt
forgot
bad
to
saying
put
that.
that. I forgot to put that in the trivia. He is a Tom Scott, a saxophonist. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's accurate. I think this may be a miss. Like a oh no nope nope. He's a saxophonist and and he's appeared on records by the Beach Boys, Blondie, Grateful Dead, George Harrison, Whitney Houston, Quincy Jones. Like he's just an incredibly accomplished saxophonist who also scored some films. That's very interesting.
He was a member of the Blues Brothers.
I guess it
Yeah, how
shouldn't
about that?
surprise me that George Harrison had a solo career, but it does.
I mean, he made what the Hare Krishna song. That's catchy.
Then he got sued for it.
What? Who did that originally? What was he sued by the Hare Krishnas?
No, no, no. He was sued because he had nicked an earlier song. Probably,
Oh,
probably subconsciously. Well, oh God, now you can't remember. She's so fine or something, maybe. Yeah, but it
huh.
sounds like an early
Eh.
'60s like girl group song or something. Like
Yeah,
the
he made
melody's the
music
same.
for. He wrote music for Dragnet and Lassie. Man, what a
He's a
guy! This guy
busy dude.
is
What a
that's
baller. Okay.
amazing.
Well, now
Yeah,
I feel good
Wait,
liking
wait,
his
wait, wait.
soundtrack.
I'm glad we talked about him.
We talking about the Apes guy, or we talking about George Harrison?
The Apes
We're
guy.
talking about the
Okay.
Apes guy.
He does
Yeah,
I
monkey
mean,
films and he does dog films.
I mean, you could absolutely put "My Sweet Lord" by George Harrison into this film somewhere, and it would work. But I don't know where. During the
On the
violent
Yeah,
soundtrack.
as
ride
well
at
as
the
say
end.
during the violence, of course. It has to be the ironic thing, right? I guess they didn't do
Oh,
that in the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
70s, though.
Also, they didn't have enough shots of violence to put together a montage. They couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
Maybe George Harrison would have taken up the entire budget. I don't know.
Well, that would be okay. It's just a bunch of George Harrison music, but then most of the movies just apes sitting around. I mean, that'd be fine. No one would complain about that.
Like a movie that is just Beatles music playing and apes sitting in a room getting stoned is something that they would have put out back in the 60s. So,
Well, it's like remember we came across an insane thing where in The Prisoner they like there's a Beatles song in the last episode, and we were like, I cannot believe the Beatles allowed this TV series to use it. Like that's
well, like,
crazy.
again, I can imagine them all being super into The Prisoner.
They're probably all friends,
Hmm
or at least friends with Lou Grade. But
Also, it's
Maybe,
early.
maybe that's what they're actually referencing. Number nine.
yeah,
Mm,
oh yeah,
mm. Three after
interesting,
six. What if six were nine? Yeah, okay.
nice.
Yeah, I guess most of the budget of this movie, just to go to another thing, went to that ape control set because the outsides were free. So
Mm.
Ape Control is a cool set.
No, it's
It,
great.
it was all just stuff borrowed from previous sci-fi films. It was like a
Most
Twilight Zone
likely.
set. It's listed. It's listed in the Wikipedia.
Most of the ape jumpsuits were borrowed from
Yeah,
another
I
film.
didn't even count the apes as part of the budget, basically. I'm like, oh, they already have that stuff. And also, this is definitely where when you start looking at the background apes, you regret it.
Is it
Yeah,
like was
there's
apes popular enough already that they would have been like buying like ape masks from the ape merchandise in toy shops?
I don't know.
Completely. This is actually before Star Wars. This was the biggest
Yeah.
merchandising hit. So
There's a whole documentary about that on the Blu-ray for the original Planet of the Apes, which I watched, and I think we talked about it back when we first did the films and filth.
I
Okay,
would I would bet a fair
So
dollar.
I wonder if they were like, well, we need a bunch of extra ape masks, but we could just go down to the local toy shop and they're selling Planet of the Apes masks. Just
I
go and
okay.
buy as many as you
think
can
you're
fit in a
getting some of
bag.
those in the background. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I've
exactly what I'm thinking.
I've got some information. The jumpsuits were leftover costumes from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, which is a 1964-68 Fox TV series. The Ape Management men's insignia patches and computer and electronic cabinets all came from the Time Tunnel, which is an Irwin Allen series. The large set that comprised Ape Management Center is a redressed set of ADM, which I guess is that also from the Time Tunnel? I don't know. Uh, Oh, sorry. Oh, it was Administer Matthews' office and the Triton Control Complex from City Beneath the Sea. Governor Breck's ape auction throne was in Taylor's spaceship in Planet of the Apes. This wow. And
Well,
then
that's how
those
you
chairs
make
were
this for
and
1.7 million.
Yep.
those chairs were reused in Babylon 5 in 1993.
Nice.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
is
you
fun.
know, but like they're cool set. I feel strongly that cool sets and cool things should be reused because they look
Hmm.
cool. Like you don't have to build something completely original for everything,
Or like you
unless
don't
you're
have to not build anything and do it all CGI.
exactly yeah same deal.
So I guess
Like
this
I
movie is
don't
just a master class in reappropriating materials, you know?
know about masterclass, but it's a masterclass in how to use 1.7 million dollars for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah,
Like
this guy must have
jeez.
gotten some more jobs as time went on. Yeah, getting back to the toys, so Mark and I had a little trouble figuring out what they actually made because there's so much modern stuff in retro packaging.
Yeah, I bet.
So if you want one of the mutants from Beneath, you can get them, but we couldn't figure out if they actually made those in the 70s, you know?
I don't think they did.
No, I think
Uh,
we kind of came on that, but they might, I don't know.
I want to give
The
a shout out
mecha
to someone
dolls.
I've just spotted in the cast. He's listed as announcer, so I'm guessing he just did like, oh, all apes, please return to whatever. His name is Dick Spangler.
All right.
nice.
It's just a
I
name shout out. I thought you were about to give us like some.
He's not even a link on Wikipedia. He's a black name, but his name is Dick Spangler.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I wonder if that's a stage name.
I hope he has a Prince Albert.
Oh, he's got the
Um,
Spanglier stick on set, that's for sure.
Right.
yep.
Um,
Uh,
how bonk on the head is this with its message? It is, I mean, it's PG now, but I guess it's still technically a kind of a children's movie. So is this, teaching 10-year-olds about racism? Is that the idea
I
here?
I don't feel like this is much of a children's movie, and
I
yes, it
don't.
is.
Have the Apes films ever been children's movies?
They were G-rated and a bunch of kids loved them.
Yeah, that doesn't make them
Yeah,
children's movies.
the way I look at it is that it's hard for us to understand it since we all grew up way after this, but apparently kids had a lot more disposable income and control after like the 80s because the economy went through this huge boom. So
Mm,
the idea of movies, TV, whatever, just for kids wasn't even a thing when Star Wars came out. Like Star Wars was for everyone. I mean,
mm.
sure it was and like the toys were for kids, obviously, but I think it's like G.I. Joe and Transformers was sort of the start of kids have like kids are a market where a
Stuff is,
demographic.
yeah, created to sell to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the
Yeah,
closest a 70s kid is Sid and Marty Krofft, and that's a different creature entirely. A
yeah,
bunch
because
of different creatures.
Bugs Bunny cartoons were for everyone. They're for adults, you know. That's like all of the Tom and Jerry, and like cartoons that we consider good from the 20th century were mostly yeah. The idea of cartoons only for kids wasn't even really a
Well,
thing.
it would have existed, but it would have been educational stuff, right? Because it's for kids, but ultimately the parents are still the customer. So,
Yeah, and
your
I
Sesame Streets and
Yeah, I think Sesame Street was probably ground zero for This Is for Kids, and it
Mm.
probably the reason that it was educational and public television is because Ronald Reagan hadn't signed that thing into law where
Yeah, you're
stuff
allowed
could
to
be
make comic books
advertised.
just to sell to children.
Yeah, exactly. Because
So not counting the first Apes movie, then I guess you could say it's for people. It's for kids and people on psychedelic drugs. You know, the apes and Sid and
But
Marty
like
Croft.
Apes literally has Apes 2 has the world exploding. There's blood all over those films. Apes 1 has like crucified human skins to keep them out of territory. There's no way these films were for children. I'm not saying kids
G-rated.
didn't
yeah,
like
a
irrelevant.
lot of things are G-rated. You couldn't
Yeah.
make it. You couldn't make like well, you could put boobs in your film, but you couldn't have like you couldn't make like Seven or anything. You know, you couldn't you couldn't make Hellraiser.
Yeah, I'm just saying the
But you
bar
could
was
make
different back then, you know?
schlock. Yeah, you could make like schlocky stuff that was sort of proto slasher films, but like most stuff was for everyone because the market of movies. What? How many movies would come out a year during this period that weren't like super grindhouse stuff? Probably like 30 movies a year. Like there just wasn't that
Feels
much of a
low.
market. Yeah, it is probably low, but you know, it's I think this was just a movie for everyone because a lot of movies were for everyone.
As opposed to
Or at least
2020,
it's a movie
almost
for
five.
adults that kids happen to like, right? Like, remember,
Yeah.
kids were playing with Rambo and Robocop toys in the 80s. Those films weren't made for kids. Kids were watching them.
Dad can
No,
take his kids to
and
this
then
movie, though.
and then
Yeah.
because of Ronald Reagan, there were RoboCop cartoons
Cartoons
and
and yeah,
Toxic
yeah, yeah.
Avenger and toys. It was
But
just
that was
everything was just a mess.
that came after because the kids were already into the films.
We will be
Yeah.
getting to the animated series this too, so it's not,
Yeah.
again, it is a groundbreaking trajectory in some ways, I suppose.
Yeah, but you know, think in terms of when was it the Hayes Code or was that comics? Was
Hayes
No, the
Code
comics
is
code is just called Comics Code.
yeah.
Comics Code. When did the Hayes Code end? Because that had to
It
have been
I
sometime in the
don't
50s. You couldn't even make like really risque anything. You couldn't have two people lying in a bed next to each other in the
when
movie
the
like
rating
10
system
years earlier.
started, which was 67 or 68, so now you
Oh
can do Bonnie
God.
and Clyde.
Well, that was right. 67 was like the year the Apes came out, basically, or like the year before.
Yeah, it was that's why they didn't know how to rate movies yet, I guess. But no,
So
the Hayes
that's
Code
why
like
this isn't a kids
slowly
movie.
erodes, in the 60s. Like I'd say it
Yeah.
slowly erodes until by the mid 60s, it's like, okay, let's rate movies and let the new Hollywood people put
Yeah.
filth on screen.
But that's, I think that still came on gradually. It's like if you don't want to be like, hey, oh, the Hays Code is over. I'm going to put out Salo or 120 Days of Sodom right now.
Of course,
I'm
that's
sure there
also a
was a
European movie.
couple like people making a quick buck who were doing that, like how as
Yeah.
soon as Winnie the Pooh goes public domain, that crap horror movie comes out.
God, that looked like such a piece of shit. Did you watch
It
that, right,
was. I
Matt?
watched it.
No,
Yes.
Matt watched it. Oh, for the Disney
Yeah, for
podcast.
the Disney
Yeah, we did the many
podcast.
adventures of Winnie the Pooh and that together.
Incredible.
Yeah. Okay, Planet of the Apes, G, 1968. So the first Planet of the Apes movie was, written by a guy who just was done being blacklisted, and Rod Serling, and for the cutting edge, director doing this, and Charlton Heston, who was just mad the whole time, probably, or at least he didn't want to do sequels. Um, Written by a Frenchman who wrote a very like sarcastic kind of what sarcastic is the right word, like a satirical dark
Hmm.
vision of the future. So yeah, this was kind of like uncharted territory, and also, man, yeah, maybe it's like retroactively for children, but King Kong. I don't feel like King Kong was for children in 1939, right? Like,
Go earlier than
that
that,
was,
man.
oh, 31,
33.
33. God, well, if I at least I got on the third.
Right before the Hays Code kicked in. That was the one thing I was going to
Yeah,
say
wow.
though. With the early '60s, that's why they could market all the French and Italian films because it's like, hey, these are from Europe, and you might see a nipple, which you would not see in the Hollywood films.
Hmm.
And you
Yeah.
didn't have to feel like you were going to the grindhouse to see, nudie cuties that way. I'm seeing a classy art
They,
movie.
they should have just done like, the film that scared everyone when the train drove straight at the screen but then right when the train gets to
But
the
with a
front of the
bigger
screen,
dick
it's like a
instead of a
boob.
train.
Yes,
Like is
exactly.
Bridget Bardot taking her top off or something?
Yep, yep. It's like the train's
Audiences
headlights turn
vomited
into
because they thought the penis was coming onto their real face.
it. But yeah,
So this podcast is adult rated, right?
Yeah, we,
now
we
it
don't we
is.
don't we don't go on like sailors, but I don't edit the couple dirty words out of this one.
Good, you better not, you fucking cunt.
I think you've done that before on this
This is the
podcast.
Planet of the Apes.
Last time you asked.
We're now on the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, I don't know if it's like we haven't talked a lot about this actual film, and I do feel like maybe that there isn't as much to chew on here, unfortunately, as the last few.
Well, I would also posit that, obviously slavery and racism are the big issues here, and this is a podcast
Yeah.
with three white dudes right now, so it's a little
Well,
bit.
yeah, it is like you were earlier talking about bonk bonk on the headness, and I think there is a lot here, which also it's direct, but also at the same time it's sometimes very, very difficult to watch, which I can't even really. So the scene with Caesar getting shocked on that table.
Yeah, I was actually about to bring that up. That's a pretty disturbing torture scene. I also noticed that the door is insane there. That was clearly appropriated from a different production because the door to the torture chamber's got this insane, like, canted angle. It's like, that's not practical.
Like I would rather watch 50 humans get shot in the head than watch that scene.
Well, I guess what you get is a few scenes later.
Yeah, I guess.
Especially if you're watching
I was,
the bleaker cut that got the higher
I was
rating, the R rating.
I was thinking of James Franciscus getting shot in the head after we spend the entire movie with him in the second
In
movie.
a G-rated movie, yes.
Yep.
Sorry,
For kids.
The ratings of
No,
Planet of the Apes are like also one of the more fascinating things about them. I mean, not the movies themselves, but just the fact that, like, that's why we're talking so much about the context, I think. Because
Matt's whole "it's G-rated, so it's for kids" thing is reminding me of like, I remember hearing stories from friends who worked in game shops that like mums would come in to buy a game for their like 13-year-old son, and then like you'd be like, "Oh, he wants the Gran Turismo," and then they pick it up and be like, "Oh, it says it's for 3+. I don't think it's for him." I'm like, no, it's 3+ because it's just cars. There's nothing offensive. It doesn't mean it's directed at 3-year-olds.
But that's the thing, like with in America with the ratings,
well, that evolved, I think.
People will bump, they'll add like one dirty word into the movie or just one violent act, so it will not be G. They want it PG because Americans will look at a G rating and say that is for children. Same thing
because Americans are thick.
Right, same thing with
You're
R and
making my point.
I wish we just had a separate rating system for tone. Like Poltergeist, technically I guess Poltergeist technically is a PG rated movie or maybe PG-13 because it didn't make.
Oh, it's before they started.
It brought that to the forefront, but like the tone of Poltergeist is R. Like
I disagree. Actually,
you don't think so?
I think I watched both Poltergeists pretty recently, for the first time, and they have some scary elements, and it is kind of surprising that they got the rating they did. But like tonally, they do feel like kind of family films. Like, everyone does live happily ever after at the end.
I think people, especially Mark and my age, we saw Poltergeist as kids and haven't seen it recently. So we remember. I'm sure I remember it as being more hardcore.
It sounds like Mark watches it like weekly.
No. I saw it for the first time when I was like 40.
Okay.
I skipped it when I was a kid because I thought it was probably for babies. And I was surprised that like, oh no, this is scary. This is better than a lot of it's a better.
You went into it thinking, oh, it's for babies, so you were surprised how scary it was. I went into it hearing how terrifying it was, so I was surprised how kiddie it is.
And I saw it as a kid on TV, so I was like, I saw it when I was like 8 for the first time, so that'll do it.
But 8-year-olds are scared of any old shit,
Yeah, I would have been.
I remember I had a babysitter when I was a kid, and she would only let me watch the first Star Wars because she was terrified of Yoda.
Well, takes all kinds. But I mean, that's the reason I'll be more likely to watch a movie when it's rated R is because a lot of PG-13 rated movies are feel like children's movies with a thing tacked on to make them appeal to broader audiences by forcing a PG-13 rating, or something like a bloodless movie with tons of violence, which is frustrating in its own way.
I really want to see, and I know it exists, but it's hard to get hold of, the like R-rated cut of Die Hard 4.
I watched the PG-13 one and I didn't care for it, but
I
you guys
I
have both
I enjoy
insisted
that
it's
film.
good.
It's okay, but
Yeah.
like there are so many scenes where it's like a guy's getting munched by a blade, not a single drop of blood. A guy gets shot, turns around, slumps on a white police car, and slides down. And like it was clearly that shot was made for there to be a streak of blood, but left behind,
Yeah,
and there's just not.
Yeah.
It's
I have
bizarre.
the Die Hard Blu-ray set, but I had to keep my DVD of 4 because it had the R cut.
Ah, there you go.
The Blu-ray only had the PG-13 cut, which is that was a bad move. I want to move on to
Mhm.
some questions. I just need to throw out that McDonald is a real dude and he returns in the next movie, so we didn't mention him. Um,
Actually, he does not. Is It's somebody else's
oh,
brother.
oh,
He
it's
was
his
supposed to
brother. You're
return.
right. You're right.
He
You're
was
right.
supposed to return for the next movie, but he didn't want to, which,
It's the same character in the next movie, basically.
yeah, basically they just wrote him as to
Yeah,
be brother.
I exactly as they probably intended for audiences to. Just assumed it was the same dude.
Yes. And does Breck survive to the next movie? He's actually in the next one.
I don't think
He
he's
is
in
not.
it, but yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean, he
it's been
technically survived.
yeah, it's been a few years since I watched Battle, as I'm now making clear as I'm
Yeah.
talking, getting it wrong. Um, so
Hmm.
let's throw a few questions on here. The
Wait.
first, oh,
Take a little pause before you do your questions. I
okay.
gotta piss.
Cool. I don't know why I said it like that.
We're back. So questions, I suppose, unless Mark has a revelation he wants to reveal.
Oh no, I just saw that the guy who plays Governor Brecht played a character named what the hell is his name? It's the movie called Radioactive Dreams, and he
Hmm.
plays a character called Dash Hammer. And this is directed by Albert Pune of Captain America. And it says, "Meet Philip and Marlowe, the post-nuclear private eyes. They're looking for good times and fast women. Their first case could be the world's last. Radioactive Dreams, a world of guilty pleasures." It's just like super bright colored insanity. And oh my, okay. I'll put a pin in that
All
for
right.
later.
Well, as far as Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, what percentage of this is existential dread and which percentage is sci-fi fun? Luke, I guess I'll pop it to you first as the guest.
Hmm. I don't know if I would say existential dread, but it is like pretty dystopian. But it's mostly no, I guess it leans a little more dread.
Okay, so like little over 50 on the dread for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pump it up a little bit to 70-30 because the sci-fi fun, most of that's actually dread too. It's like ape torture devices and training devices, and I'm like, well, that's not fun, Like we said, the shock table scene is not much fun. So, then it's you got guys, a bunch of guys in monkey masks, which that's sci-fi fun, but they're violently rioting, which I guess that's more dread. So 70-30 for me. Mark.
You guys haven't worked in the service industry enough. This is like 95% dread. Like everything about this is dread. It's like basically it's like you're a slave and then the slaves will kill all the humans. So there's no winners here
I
really.
worked 9 years in a supermarket and then a job in a restaurant. So
Okay, never mind. You
Mark had my
definitely
number
did your
though.
job. But no, but I something speaks to me personally. This entire film fills me with dread. And that's what kind of movie this is, and it makes it interesting. And I don't know if you could make a $1.7 million movie and make it all that fun because you, well, the director intentionally worked with like made everybody's jumpsuits the same and he was intentionally trying to make this as dread filled as possible, and I felt that. And
Okay. No, no, what's the most service industry I worked? I worked with you at the mall that one winter. That's maybe
oh, that was
about it.
terrible.
Oh, I worked at the Warner Brothers Studio store. There was that too. Yeah, okay.
Well, that's maybe terrible. I don't
And the
know.
Radio Shack. This studio store wasn't so bad.
Oh, I wish I worked at the Radio Shack.
I
Damn,
wish
I
I worked
should
at
have.
Radio Shack. No, I did.
I
They
work
had
so hard in the radio
no. I didn't like that because they
station.
had commission stuff. You don't
Oh,
want to
no,
work
no,
on
yeah, that's bad.
commission stuff. There's like
That's
minimum wage and selling phones. It was anything over minimum wage.
Luke, do you have commission-based like jobs in the UK? Is that a thing?
They exist, but like I've never
Yeah.
had one.
Yeah, I've never. I almost worked at a Guitar Center, and then I just basically they didn't call me back, and I didn't call them back. It was like I was like, I can't do this because
Um,
I don't. I feel like it's unethical to tell to suggest to anyone to buy anything. So I'm not really cut out for sales.
yeah, that's pretty much my bugaboo as well. I don't know. Could I sell a guitar though? And I'm obsessed enough with guitars.
Dude,
Maybe I could sell them.
I I need to sell a bunch of my own belongings, and I don't want to because I feel bad. I'm like, oh God, I don't want to. But
So on a scale of 0 bananas to 7 bananas, how bananas is this movie? I feel like it's pretty bananas. It has ape riots. I give this 6 out of 7 bananas.
I give it 5 because that's an odd number. I
Why
will
you
not
want to
be
give it an odd
elaborating.
number? You don't
It
want to
needs
give
an
it an
odd
even
number
number?
of bananas,
Okay, if you
and
feel
that
that way.
number is 5.
Right.
The five bananas for the 5 fingers of the ape fist that comes together to punch humans in the face. How about that?
Sure. Okay. I just want to give this one a lot of bananas, that's all. But I don't want to give it 7. I think Beneath is my 7 banana movie. I just felt like that's one's the most bananas. Uh Luke, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's fine. You just answer with
Have we
what you
got?
want.
I'm gonna give it 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, 4, 5 banana, 6 banana, 7 banana, more.
More than 7 bananas.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
I guess yeah. I guess that
Yeah,
can
yeah,
be
there are a
allowed.
lot of ape. If you gave every ape in this movie a banana, I mean, if you're
They'd be
counting them
happy.
as, yeah, there'd be you're talking like
Well, there
thousands of
there is a
bananas.
banana
Looks
sharing
like
scene
it.
in here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which he breaks into 4 bananas. So maybe you should give it 4 bananas. I mean, 4 pieces of banana.
Give us this day our daily banana.
Banana. Yes, yes, yes.
It's
Well,
also
he
not
is.
ethical to try to bully the guests into changing their banana count.
The most I had to do with that was like I was meant to upsell like, oh, do you want a large drink and stuff at a restaurant? And even that made me feel sick of myself.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I hated it when I worked at a pizza place for years and somebody would be like, "What's good?" And I'm like, I immediately
Pizza.
felt sick. And I'm like,
Oh no,
"No, I don't want to
I
tell you
I
something."
like doing that because I am like I like food, so I was pretty good at just passionately saying like, oh yeah, this is amazing. Get this. Because that felt real.
Do
But
you
like
like
yeah,
food?
when they're telling me to upsell stuff, then it felt shitty.
Have you ever eaten food?
I I could do that if I worked at like a sweet.
Matt wants us to set up his joke where he tells us that his students ask him, "Do you like food?" But I'm not going to do it.
Let's just say if I worked somewhere like the Korean bakery where everything is super good and like everything is objectively good there, so I'm like, well, you could try this red bean pastry, or they have this new thing that's like a coconut bun full of brown sugar and coconut mixed together as the filling. So
Yeah,
it's
but if
just
you
like a
ask somebody
big
what's good and they
thick.
said everything is objectively good, you'd be like, that person's full of shit.
I never I Matt, I don't ask people that. I make up my own mind everywhere I go. I've never
Hmm.
asked someone to recommend me anything. So there, I guess that's my
They're
problem. I'm
recommenders.
an
Take that.
obstinate ape who insists on making his own decisions. And I insist that everyone else makes their decisions too. Like you listeners should make the decision to go to podcastiopodcastius.org, where you can find all of our podcasts. You can find a link to our Patreon where you can contribute some bananas to our banana fund so we can keep bringing in bananas. You can listen to, podcasts there such as Films and Filth, the Citizen Kane of podcast, which is pretty much this podcast with the 3 of us on it, but
Yeah.
not necessarily this movie.
The ending's
Uh,
slightly different.
game show, Time Enough, Twilight Zone podcast, Lucas Pokemon, Occult Disney, coming back soon with the new Monster Hunter game will be Monster Mash,
That was a
and
convoluted bit of grammar.
Correct.
that was a convoluted. Well, you know what? It's a convoluted set of podcasts.
All right, let's smash Mark's teeth in with the butt of guns.
No.
That's me trying to talk without my teeth.
Well, Breck had such a nice, shiny white set of teeth that they smashed in the more violent cut.
And so he deserved.
Right. I guess that's the thing. It's like that one is like satisfying for the bloodlust, which makes you feel slightly bad for liking it, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, but it's also it's hilarious that they just reverse the footage. They're like, actually, he's not dead. He's like it's like that Simpsons joke where it's like the Gone with the Wind. He's like, actually, my dear, I love you. Let's get married.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that exact same joke.